Hi everyone, and welcome to Docue Digest, where we break down a particular legal document into bite-sized pieces. On the menu today is employment contracts, what they are and why they're crucial for both employers and employees, and we'll delve into how to navigate them effectively. I'm Ashley Evans, Legal Counsel at Docue UK, and joining me today is my colleague Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather Stark, Senior Legal Counsel at Docue UK. Okay, so let's start with the basics. What is an employment contract?
So an employment contract outlines the terms and conditions of employment between an employee and their employer. It sets the stage for how the employment will run on a daily basis, laying out the expectations and obligations of both the employee and the employer.
Yes, an employment contract is a crucial document for ensuring everyone is on the same page from the outset. Providing the key aspects of the employment to the employee in writing is not just good practice, but it's also a legal requirement under UK employment law. Employers have a statutory obligation to provide employees with a written statement that summarises the main terms of their employment. This is known as the written particulars of employment.
Yes, that's right. And the written particulars will cover things like the job title, the employee's start date, what the employee will be paid, the employee's working hours and days, and if those hours and days are fixed or variable, and also the location of the work. I mean, obviously, this was quite straightforward once upon a time, but now with the rise of remote and hybrid work, specifying the work location is crucial.
Absolutely. And as well as all of that, the written particulars should also include information about holiday entitlement, other paid leave, probationary periods, training, and any other benefits that the employee will receive.
Yes, and while the written particulars can be provided separately from the employment contract, it's often more efficient to just include them in the contract itself. This way, all the essential terms are in one place, which is easy for everyone to find. What are some other key topics that should be included in employment contracts, Heather?
Well, another key aspect to include is the notice period for either party to terminate the contract. There's a statutory minimum notice period in the UK, which is generally 1 week per year of service, but often an employment contract will provide for a longer period, and this will usually depend on the seniority of the role.
Right, but during the probationary period, there might be a shorter notice period, giving both sides flexibility to end the employment relationship swiftly at the beginning if it's not quite going to plan.
Exactly. It's also common for employers to allow for payment in lieu of notice, which allows the employer to pay the employee a sum of money instead of requiring them to work during their notice period. For senior roles, a garden leave clause is often included too.
Yes, employment contracts will typically include important clauses or obligations on the employee that serve to protect the employer. An example of this is a confidentiality clause. This clause contains obligations that prevent the employee from disclosing any trade secrets or important company data to third parties. It essentially keeps the employer's confidential information a secret.
Yes, and they also help to protect a company's intellectual property. When it comes to IP and employment contracts, the general position is that IP rights created by an employee in the course of employment will automatically belong to the employer. This is particularly important in creative or technology-based roles, where the employer will want to ensure they own the output that they are paying the employee to create.
It's also common for employers to include post-termination restrictions on the employee. A post-termination restriction prevents the employee from doing certain things after their employment ends. So, for example, work for a competitor, or contact the employer's clients, or poach their staff. The restriction has an expiry date, so it only restricts the employee for a limited period.
Yes, these restrictions are often included in employment contracts by businesses looking to safeguard their client relationships and retain their best talent. It may be justified to include these restrictions in a senior employment contract, but not in junior or casual employment contracts.
That's right. And you mentioned the term casual employment contract there. But what is a casual employment contract? And how do they differ from permanent employment contracts?
Well, casual employment contracts offer more flexibility. Unlike standard contracts, they don't require the employer to provide work, and the employee isn't obliged to accept any offers of work. Casual employees often work for multiple employers simultaneously.
Okay, that makes sense. So casual contracts offer flexibility for both parties. Would you use an employment contract template where someone is providing services to you, but you don't need them to work exclusively for you, and you don't need to control how or where or when they provide the services to you?
No, so they sound more like an independent consultant rather than an employee. With consultants, you would typically enter into a consultancy agreement instead of an employment contract.
Okay, So is there an easy way to create your own employment contract?
Yes, Docue's employment contract template is perfect for documenting an employment relationship in writing. It simplifies the process, prompting you to include all the relevant details and key sections we've discussed today. It can also be used for various types of employment, whether it's part-time or full-time, casual or fixed, or for junior or senior positions. Docue's template is fully customizable and can be adapted to suit your needs.
Oh, that sounds great. Thanks for listening, everyone.